Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I spent the last 2+ decades of my life. Now today I want to share with you about a dude that was my cellie. You know, most of my cellies in the penitentiary has always been Asian, Islander, or Native American. But sometimes when somebody come off the bus and they don't have no place to put them, they come and ask me, hey, will you take a Puerto Rican dude? No time. I mean, I've been in cellies with white guys and all that, with blacks. I've been in cellies with everybody and anybody that I know and I function with, and I don't have an issue with them being my cellie. So as long as they don't have an issue with being my cellie, you know. So on this particular incident, they put a dude in there, a Puerto Rican dude. They call him Macro, and he's a Yeta. And I've shared a story about Yeta. It's a prison gang and all that. And well, Macro is probably not going to really like the story that I'm about to share with him about him right now. And I had some comments and stuff about people like saying, "Oh, am I dropping dimes on these dudes because I'm sharing stories of these different type of incidents that I've seen and witnessed or been a part of?" For me, I don't see it that way. Most of the incidents that I showed you, they've already been dealt with as far as getting their sanction, going to the SHU, or their cases already been resolved in the court and is public records. But the incident I shared with you today is, you know, for example, you have that movie that Denzel Washington played in about Frank Lucas. I think it's called American Gangster, right? You know, after the movie, they showed, you know, clips, outtakes or some that shows their interactions with the movie stars, how they're giggling and laughing and their bloopers and interviews with him or whatever. But you have the public, they look at this Frank Lucas and they're like, oh, this dude was a hardcore gangster, and they kind of idolize him and think that he was this dude. But for me, he's not that dude. You were the head of your indictment. You were the man running the operation, bringing in dope from Thailand or from Burma or wherever you come from, pushing it out there in the street of Chicago. You know, yeah, maybe when you was on the street of Chicago running your operation, maybe you were hardcore. Maybe you were a gangster. But at the end of the day, to me, you end up being a fucking rat. That's who you are. Like, we have a saying, like, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. You know? You can be a gangster all your whole life, doing everything that was expected of you, going hard in the paint. But at the end of the day, once you tell on your people and get people locked up, or you become a sex offender, shit like that, that's who you are, homie. You was never a gangster. You was only a gangster because it benefited you, because everything was going your way. But when it was time to test your gangster, you became a bitch and you rat. So, like, again, for me, it's not how you start out, but it's how you finish. Everything you've done prior to that is obsolete, because you are no longer that person that you try to claim to be, because at the end of the day, you did not turn out to be that gangster. You know, you sold out your family members, you sold out your connect, you sold out everybody under the sun to get your bitch ass out of jail. Now, the story I'm about to share with you, we're not going to go all, like, the dude's not a rat, the dude's not a sex offender or anything like that. And the reason I let him in my cell, like, we know each other. We was in Atwater together, and he was real good friends. I don't know if they were real good friends, but he had a lot of dealings with my homeboy Eddie and stuff. And from everything that I known about him up to that point, was somebody that was respectable. And I had respect for him and I had love for him. We were cellies for a few months until he was able to find a cell for himself to go live with his people. And he thinks himself as a gangster and all that. And like, I'm not taking anything away from him as far as like the work he's put in the system. If he's put in any work, I don't know anything about the dude. I just know, you know, when somebody's my cellie, they give me their case to read. I give them my case to read so that we know that we're both in here and we're both kosher. Because I'm not going to sell you up with a sex offender. I'm not going to sell you up with no busters and no rats. If you're an ex-gang member, you can't sell you up with me. If you've been X'd out, ran off the yard, you're not going to be able to come in my cell. If you're a rat, you're not going to be able to come in my cell. Because if you do, you probably won't make it out of the cell. Now, while he was there in Atwater, you know, he's Puerto Rican. And there's a couple of Puerto Ricans in Atwater that were, for lack of better words, were girls. You know, were fuckboys. And him and his other partner, Yetta, was pressing these dudes, extorting these dudes, you know, because they have the claim that they're Puerto Rican. So other races really can't step in, even like those guys' man, boyfriend, or whatever, you know. They can't really like stop somebody that's from another race that's in the same type of car from them doing whatever they were doing. So they were extorting a couple of these punks in there that were Puerto Rican. You know, going there, taking their shit, pressing them for their dope, making them send their money, all that stuff, right? So one of the Puerto Rican dude, he was the dope man. You know, he had stuff coming in, he was feeding people and all this stuff, and Macro and his homeboy was extorting him. Well, the Puerto Rican dude got tired of it, so he hired some DC dudes to go and take care of, you know, Macro and his homeboy. And this is where I say it's not how you start, but how you finish that matters. From all that time leading up, he could have been a gangster, certified, all of that. But when these DC dudes approached him, they ran to the police and checked in. If I'm a gangster, homie, and I'm extorting somebody, and I got my reasons for why I'm doing it, and somebody approached me and talk about, hey, you can't be doing this no more, woo, woo, woo. My response is, fuck you, mind your business, and if not, we can get it in. And the reason I can say that is because it's happened to me before. When I was in Bloody Beaumont, we had this Japanese dude. I think he's Japanese and Portuguese. His name was Kamanaka. And his family had a little money. So when he was at the time I was in Beaumont, but they were in Atwater. While they were in Atwater, the homie was kind of taking advantage of him. You know, running up bills or whatever and then making them pay for it. But again, the reason that these dudes get carried that way is not because they're soft or it's not because they're not tough or they're not a fighter. It's because there was something about them that people didn't respect. You know what I mean? So when he got transferred to Beaumont, he came on the line. And I asked him, I was like, well, why are you here? And he ended up saying that he went to his shoe, he checked in because he got tired of people pressing him and this and that. And in Beaumont, we really didn't have like a Asian Islander coalition like how I have in California. Over there's only a handful of us, right? And pretty much the Islanders over there did their own thing, and us Asians did our own thing. And even amongst us Asian, we didn't have a really solidified unity. You know, you have a couple Japanese dudes, a couple giant Chinese dudes, 3 or 4 Vietnamese dudes, but none of them function with each other. We had one table in the chow hall where we all came to eat and all that stuff, but we didn't really function with each other. So when I got there, I had a Samoan homie, Deuce, that came out here from Utah. And like I said, there wasn't the Islanders. There was only like 3 or 4 Islanders over there that didn't have a place to sit at the table. So I told Deuce that he can come sit at our table. And in extension, any other Islander, if they don't have a place to sit, they can come sit at our table. But while I was in Beaumont, Deuce come to me and tell me, hey, there was this Puerto Rican dude from the East Coast that was a blood named Q, rest in peace. After we left Beaumont, he got killed, right? You know, Q, he was about 5'10", but wide, yoked up, and a bully. And he ended up, when we left Beaumont, ended up in Big Sandy, and he was like pushing his weight on a couple youngsters, a couple bloods that was from the East Coast, and them 2 bloods ended up murking him. You know, like I don't know all the details of that incident, but while I was in Beaumont, I fought with Q real tough. But Deuce come to tell me, hey, there's a dude here that said, why you guys didn't let Eddie on the line? And the Eddie I'm talking about is Eddie Sua. This is before I met him, but I've already heard his name ringing through the feds. I got a couple homies that been at TI, which is an FCI, and Phoenix, which is an FCI, that was over there with my homeboy Eddie. So everything I've heard about the homie, yeah, he's a handful, but there was no smear on about who he was. He wasn't a piece of shit. He wasn't no rat. None of that stuff. He just, you know, he pressed the gas when he's, you know, he has no problem, you know, dealing with people. But when I got to know him, the dude, if he's your friend, he's gonna give his shirt off his back for you. He's gonna be there on the front line with you. But if you're a dude boy, piece of shit, whatever, then he's gonna press the gas on you, put his foot on your neck. So when Q comes and tells me that, hey, how come you guys didn't let him on the line over here? Like, we have a rule. You don't stop nobody from coming on the yard. You don't never go to the police, to SIS, to mediate any of your problems. So when Deuce told me, I'm like, man, who's this dude? So at lunchtime, he went and brought me and introduced me to Q. That's how me and him met. I was like, what happened? He's like, oh man, they said Eddie was over here at the shoe waiting to come on the yard, but the people on the yard told SIS not to let him out. And I'm like, man, I'm the homie over here. And I've never heard of anything like this. But at the same time, there was 3 Hawaiian dudes, or 3 Islanders, Kamanaka, fat dude named Shaq, he's Hawaiian, and a Samoan dude named T. And it turned out that all these 3, they were all victims of Eddie coming from Atwater. And like I said, when they first came on the line, I left them alone. I didn't really push the issue on there because we didn't have a coalition, so I didn't have any rights to, you know, to ask for certain credentials or do their background check or whatever. They just pretty much did their own thing. But when it turned out that this incident happened, I approached them. I said, hey, I got a dude that just came from Pollock, because that's where Eddie ended up being when he couldn't come to Beaumont. They ended up sending him to Pollock. I said, hey, I got a dude that here that just came from Pollock talking about we stopped the homie from coming on the line. I said, I didn't stop him from coming on the line. I don't know anything about that incident. I said, what's up? And they're like, oh, Mason, man, you don't understand. I said, whoa, what the fuck don't I understand? I said, no. We don't do that over here. You know what I mean? But again, like, I can only go so far because they're not really in my car. You know what I mean? They have their own thing, but at the same time, I'm going to speak on it. So I approached them, and they were like, oh, no, you don't understand. I say, listen, we don't stop people from coming out on the yard. Besides that, if you guys got issues with him, there's 3 of you out here, and there's 1 of him. If he comes on the yard, book him. Do whatever you need to do. But we don't go to the police, homie. And they're like, oh, they were trying to justify like, oh, he's crazy, this and that, and whoop de whoop. But, you know, none of that mattered to me. So when that happened, I felt some type of way as far as like, I really can't just punish these dudes because we're not in the same car, but we're kind of associates. So I end up pressing them. I end up extorting them. And one of the dudes that I was extorting, his name was Kamanaka. So they're paying me. Every week they're paying me whatever agreement, whatever amount of money that I agreed to. Because I was like, listen, you guys want to stay on this yard, homie? You need to break bread. Because even though we're not in the same car, people are still going to associate me with you guys because you guys are Islander. But I'm not cool with what the fuck you guys are doing over here. So what's up? And they didn't want any problems or whatever, and they agreed to pay me. You know, I didn't go around advertising that, broadcasting that to the yard or anything. This is just, you know, a discreet, soft press. So every week, they're breaking me off with whatever it is that we agreed to. So one day, I'm out in the yard. It's me, the homie Bullet, rest in peace, Deuce, my celly Hugh, he's from Flying Dragon out of New York, and half black, half Filipino named BJ. You know, we're all kicking it. If anybody's ever been in Bloody Beaumont on yard 1, where they have the handball court and the basketball court, when you come in, there's a rec area with the tables, but it's all fenced up. It's all fenced up, and then you have a doorway that's about 5 feet wide that goes out into the yard. So really, when you're in there, you're boxed in. So me and Bullet is sitting there kicking it. And this one dude from the Midwest, his name is Q. You know, like, I don't know, like a Creole. He's like Creole or whatever. He's like light-skinned, red hair. Not really red hair, but, you know, and he's not no big dude. He's like my size. You know, he comes up, but they have a Midwest coalition. He comes up and he's like, hey, Mesa, can I speak to you? I was like, yeah, what's up? Because, you know, I played handball with him a few times. I've shot some pool with him. I got to know him. We had a cool rapport. We weren't homies or nothing like that, but we had a cool rapport. But I guess, like, people say he knows how to fight. He knows, you know, MMA and all this stuff. I don't know anything about the dude. But I know at the time, he had the yard for the Midwest dude, for the Midwest Coalition. So he comes up, you know, I'm sitting on top of the table, just kicking back, chopping up with my homie. And he comes up and says, hey, Mesa, can I speak to you? I was like, yeah, what's up? He goes, hey, I want to talk to you about Kamanaka. You know, once he said the names, you know, all my spider senses perked up. So I stepped off the table and got myself in a position that if something do pop off, I'm ready. You know what I mean? So he's like, hey, man, you know, I ain't got nothing to speak on with what you got going on with Kamanaka, but when that's finished, I'm letting you know it's off limits. He runs with the Midwest now. And I'm like, what? I'm like, how do you do that? Where the fuck they do that at? Right? So now I'm getting an aggressive posture because in my mind, it's like, who the fuck is you to keep coming to address me on this issue? This motherfucker ain't got nothing to do with you or your peoples. So I'm like, what are you saying, homie? And he's like, well, I'm just letting you know he runs with the Midwest car and that once you finish doing what you got doing, you know, we ain't gonna allow that no more. And I was like, and I'm trying to remember the conversation verbatim so I don't say anything that's not true or accurate. But I was like, hey, what I got going on with Kamanaka ain't got nothing to do with you, homie. He said, no. I said, yeah, ain't got, but I'm telling you, when it finished, he runs with the Midwest. And as I'm speaking, I'm stepping up, getting closer to him. In Beaumont, we all carry knives. I don't give a shit if you're an independent, if you don't gangbang, if you're a homosexual, whatever. Everybody and their mamas is strapped. Everything on the wall, everything on the building that can get cut down and filed down to make a piece has been done. You know, we used to go in there when we first went in the penitentiary. Used to have shelves in our room, in our cells, metal shelves. All the shelves in Bloody Beaumont has been cut down and stripped down and made into knives. The exit sign in front of your building, in your unit before you leave, has been taken down, filed down, and made knives. They had this little freaking like a little screen thing that surrounds the light bulb in the shower. That's about this long, maybe 6 inches, and it curves up. We found out that shit doesn't set off the metal detector. We were the first one. We took that off. We broke them down, filed them down, and made knives out of them. Within 2 days, every one of those screens in every single unit was taken off and filed down and made knives. Like, everybody's got a stash of armory. We have knives dug up, buried in every single yard, because in the environment in Beaumont, shit was cracking every single day. And when you moving from unit to the yard, to education, to chow, to wherever, to the medical, wherever you're going through metal detectors. So a lot of times, if you don't have a floater is one that doesn't set off the metal detector. That could be a knife that's made out of plastic, made out of wood, or you're fortunate enough to get your hand on some copper. You know, coppers are still strong and hard, but they won't set off the metal detector. But the rest of it is all metal, so it's going to set off the metal detector. So for you to be able to have access to your knives and stuff, you find a way to go and bury them in different spots on the yard. So if something jump off, you can go over there, pull your string or whatever you got attached to it, dig it out, and be ready, right? So when dude comes and tells me that, hey, you know, after I'm done doing what I'm doing, that this dude Kamanaka is part of the Midwest card. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm about maybe a little bit over a foot from him. I have my knife in my right pocket. You know, in my mind, my scenario was I'm gonna pop him with my left, uppercut him with my left. That's gonna give me a split second to dig into my pocket, and then I'm gonna go to work. But while I'm talking to this dude is an imam for the Muslim, comes up there, like, hey, what's up, Q? What's going on? And he's like, oh, no, I'm just talking, we're just having a conversation. But their demeanor was like they're bringing assistance, you know, little aid and assist type of shit. So I'm about to make my move, but I look at the corner of my eye and I see my homie Bullet, and he was like telling me, like, you know, don't. You know, his eye signal was telling me to look up. Like I said, in the area that we were in, it's blocked off. It's fenced up, blocked off. It's got tables around there where we run our poker table and stuff. But you got about maybe, you know, a 6-foot radius that exit out into the yard, and a 6-foot radius that comes into that area. And when I looked up, all those were all blocked off by Midwest and Muslim dudes. So there was already about 20 of them already posted up while Q was hollering at me, right? So they already knew they were coming there with aggression, or just in case that if I buck, they're gonna have the manpower to do what they do. And I don't put nothing past none of these dudes. Everybody in Bloody Beaumont go hard. So I'm not saying that these dudes are dude boys or anything like that. These dudes are everybody in there is gangster, homie. You know, as far as my experience being there from 2006 to 2008. But Bullet was telling me, you know, like I said, I saw him in the corner of my eye, And Bull was my right-hand man. Rest in peace. I got a lot of dead homies, throughout the system, man. And it's, I don't sit around thinking about them or anything like that, but when I do bring up their name, it's hard to forget that they're no longer here. When you're in the penitentiary, the kind of relationship that you build is more intimate than relationships you have out here with people out here in the street. Because people out here in the street, you see them here and there, you might not really know anything about them at all. But when you're locked up with somebody, first of all, you're checking their paperwork, so you get a sense of who they are. Then you're there every single day, functioning with them. So there's no secrets. You can see their real personality. Like we have nothing, there's nothing left. We've been stripped down of everything. Nobody cares who you were, what you were, how much money you have now. When you're in a penitentiary, all you have is your heart and your nuts and how you conduct yourself. And, that was my dog, man. That was my friend. But he was giving me the look at that time in this particular incident. He was like, man, just look around. And I looked around and I seen both the exit, blocked off by a Midwest dude and Muslim dude. But, I'm already, I can already feel my body heating up already. I'm getting aggressive already. And I'm speaking in the manner that I'm speaking now. So he's like, hey, when this stuff that you got going on with Kapanaka is over with, he runs with us now. And if anything happens to him, it's a Midwest issue. So I'm like, I said, when I finish doing what I'm doing with him, then me and you can have this conversation again. Outside that, I'll holler at you. And my intention was, I'm plotting now, you know what I mean? But I never got a chance to, because like 2 weeks later, the whole yard blew up because all the blacks got into it with each other and they shut down the prison. We got locked down for a few months and they brought the bus and shipped us out. So that issue never got resolved in the way that I wanted to resolve it. Now going back to my story with this dude from Yenta, Macro, like I said, he could have been a gangster all the whole time. But when the DC dudes pushed up on him, his homeboy and them ended up running into the freaking counselor's office and checking in. And the dude that hired him, the Puerto Rican dude that hired the DC dudes to take care of Macro and his other homeboy, after the DCs ran them dudes up, they went back to the Puerto Rican dude and robbed him and took all his shit, right? Because at the end of the day, people are not going to fight other people's fight for you. When somebody comes and push up on you and you buck and you resist, they're going to respect that. Because no one's looking for an easy fight. No one's looking for a fight. They're looking for an easy mark. But once they know that you're a dude boy, you ain't going to defend yourself, you ain't going to stand up for yourself or stand up for the things you believe in, people lose respect for you. And once people don't have any respect for you, then you become a victim. This Puerto Rican dude thought he can hire these DC dudes that are gangster to take care of his issue. But the DC dude recognized that, this dude you're already getting extorted and pressed by a couple of dude boys that they just ran up. So if these dude boys over here are able to press you and take your shit, we might as well take your shit too. And that's what happened. But like I said, it's, all these videos, I tell you, if you're a gangster, homie, I'm going to give you your flowers. I'm going to give you the respect you got coming. But if you're a buster, you're a dude boy, I'm going to put you out there. And if you don't like it, oh well. I'm not concerned. You know what I mean? But this is the kind of shit that happens through the course of my day in a penitentiary. And I say again, it's not for us, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. You might see somebody that go into the penitentiary and he might be scared, because who's not scared? When I first found out that I was going to the penitentiary, I had some concerns because I've seen the movies, I've heard the stories. And when I got there, I was a little hesitant, a little shy about the thing that's going on. But I didn't allow that to stop me from doing my time. I didn't allow that to hinder me. And for me, it's not how you start, it's how you finish that matters. Welcome to the USP.